Hello there. We're February the 17th, 2024. And welcome you. My name is Jim Wortham. Some people call me Jim Bob. You can call me Jim Bob. Um, I did a video a night or two ago, and I have to tell you, it was the worst 3 days I had for a long time. But after I watched it, I deleted it. So I may get back to it later. It had to do with meeting people in another city and what came out of that, which was not good. And I thought I wouldn't be doing anybody any good or making you happy by leaving it on YouTube. So here we are. We're going to talk about something else that may not be real happy for you, but we're talking about a term called it's called the hitting the wall. Hitting the wall. And I've done something about this one before, but I want to go into a little bit more detail about how both women and men hit the wall, and I'm going to try to keep this down to just a few minutes rather than a half an hour or so. Hitting the wall, if you do a search on this, women hitting the wall, you'll find a few men that will take TikTok and Instagram photos of mostly women telling how they can't get dates anymore because they're over a certain age. Okay. I wanted to disagree with that. In fact, I just talked. I'm a counselor, okay? Mental health counselor, substance abuse counselor, psychologist in Kentucky. Um, I'll take issue with this and tell you that I know a 77-year-old woman where a man came on to her yesterday. I had to listen to the story in detail. How she had to pry him off of her. He had his hands over her. Okay, she's a thin, blonde, very conversational person, likable. I tell you this just to let you know the background. She's such a likable person that she is too trusting and has been raped 3 times. Now, I say that to let you know that someone 77 or so can be very attractive and desirable. She has men stopping by her house that were supposed to be handyman, people fixing the hot water heater or my gosh, there's so many things to fix around the house. I know because we're hiring them. I'm hiring them myself. So stopped up sinks, things like that. A hole appearing in a copper pipe and water pouring out into the bedroom. I've had that happen twice, so I know this stuff happens. You get a handyman, you get a plumber, but if you get one that's not reputable, that's been around and is a referral, things like this will happen. They think they can take advantage of any age woman. 77 sounds old, doesn't it? But it's not anymore. They say 85 is old. Okay, now the reason I'm sharing this is that there's a lot of YouTubes on. If you put women hitting the wall, they're going to say, if you haven't gotten the guy in your 20s or 25, you've hit the wall. 25, you've hit the wall. Especially 35. 35, you've hit the wall. And the only reason why men want to date you at that point is to go to bed with you. This is not to me making it up. It's you going, after you watch this, to the YouTube search channel and put women hitting the wall. And you will see women crying on one side, on the left side, and you'll see a man on the right side saying, you should have gotten someone when you were in your 20s and having fun. Now, I'm not making fun of this guy. He's telling a lot of truth to it, because when a person has gotten to a certain age, what he's saying is they expect more from a man. So if they're 35 or over, if the woman's 35 or over, they expect the man to come in with respect, with what can I say? They call it coming to the table together to see what each one has to give each other. I don't think like this, okay? That's why it's hard for me to put it in words. Being as a person who repairs marriages and repairs relationships, we don't see things as bringing what you can bring to the table, or I don't. Okay, now, having said that, what they're referring to when I'm going to go through both men and women. When we're talking about women, what he's referring to is that they're more beautiful when they're a teenager and early 20s than they are after they're in their 20s. So the women should catch a man in the 20s, no later than 25. Especially 35. 35 is the wall, according to the people I've been watching. 35 is the wall. One major reason is childbirth. having children. A lot of us, I don't have children. My wife chose not to have women. Not to have children. Okay, especially in this wild world we live in. That's that's the reason we didn't. Um, it's a crazy world right now. Okay, so that's a legitimate thought for some men that if they really want to have a family of children, okay. Um, if you're over, if you start, if you marry someone over 40, it may not work out too good. Maybe even at 35. 35 is the wall, they say. Let me tell you this. I've been working in this field of mental health. Whether you want to call me a marriage and family therapist, which I am, a psychologist, which I am, a clinical social worker, which I am, still practicing, very little, see very few people, mostly due to the fact that I've retired about 5 or 6 times and people kept calling for appointments and I stayed in business and kept the office open. But fewer and fewer now. So I'm in Madison, Indiana. So if you're in California, I can't counsel you on the phone or in person. Okay. If you're in Indiana, I can counsel you on phone or in person. Now, getting back to this, and look, I can't save your marriage either because most of the time when people come in for marriage counseling, it's to announce that they're getting divorced. I've had a few repaired and stay together. Now let's switch over now to men hitting the wall. I've hit the wall. You want to hear about it? Okay, I'm thinking here where to start. I hit the wall so many times. But let's stick to the field of counseling, okay? I got into it later in life. I went in and out of college. I mentioned that on other videos, but I wasn't a good student, so my track record in college and trying to go to graduate school to become a psychologist and these other licenses, I hit the wall. I hit the wall when I went to University of Kentucky and tried to get into their master's or doctoral program, and they told me with grades like yours, you're not going to get into any university. That's Coke. Now, since this was the head of the psychology department of the doctoral program at University of Kentucky, I know he looked at my transcript from Western Kentucky University, where I got a bachelor's degree. That's a BA degree. With a double major, triple major. Major in psychology, major in sociology, major in student teaching. He says, you don't have high enough a grade point average to where anybody's going to take you into their master's or doctoral program in psychology. So just give up. Well, I did give up. That's for you to dig out of another video, or I may put it into another video as an afterthought, but anyhow, that brought a long term use of alcohol. My favorite was the cheapest I could afford. This isn't in any other video, what I'm going to share. Ripple wine, which they don't make anymore. Annie Grain Spring, all sorts of flavors, and Boone's Farm. And once those went out of business, they had Gallo wines, and I liked the Burgundy. Each week I'd stock up on that. Depending on what job I had, it didn't matter. I still stocked up on it. Finally, on my last job, I'm not going to mention what it was, but they weren't going to hire me back. It was about 8 or 10 years after University of Louisville chairman of psychology told me no university's going to invite you back. Okay. I hit a wall. I didn't even think about that. I hit my first wall then, or one of the many walls. So I didn't do anything. I hit the wall. Didn't try anymore. I was predestined to not do what I planned to do all my life, which was to help people. To help people. And here's a man telling me I can't go any further and get the degree I needed to help people. So I do a bunch of other things, the worst of which I spent about $100 and got a Fuller sales kit. These are Fuller products, kind of like Watkins. No, Watkins. It was Watkins. I bought a Watkins kit. I was going to sell French vanilla. I was going to sell salve for your fingers. I owned it, so I got to keep it. Every person I knocked on the door said I was a Watkins man, slammed the door in my face. Another door is slammed in my face. I hit the wall again. So, job after job, and I'm not going to go through all the jobs. How many jobs have you had? If you're lucky, it wasn't 10 or 20. Finally, I'm going to tell you the truth. This isn't on any videos. The last job said, leave and don't come back. So I go home, I lay down on the floor, and start drinking. I don't know if it was beer or whiskey. I just don't know. And I usually don't tell this because I'm a person that tries not to drink anymore. But so I'm going to call another university tomorrow. It'll be the second university. First one said, nobody will take you. This one was Spalding University. Spalding. It was in Louisville. I called them up. They set up an appointment, which amazed me. And it all boiled down to my grade point average in college wasn't high enough. Okay? That's what it boiled down to. They wanted a 4-point average or close to it, and mine was more like 2.5 out of 4. So I go in there and they look at it. The head of the psychology department says, you know what? You missed it by 1/10 of a point of being able to be admitted with no restrictions. On your undergraduate. If you'd have just gotten just that much more, we wouldn't have to put you through what we're going to put you through. You're going to have to take a graduate record exam and get a certain number. Let's call it 1,000. I took that sucker 3 times. I was on probation that whole time. We're going to speed this thing up and say when I finally got on it, when I finally got out of it, I made my first C. 2 C's on that graduate program, which was 3 years for me. 3 years. With two C's, I'd be kicked out, even if it was the last semester. I made 1 C, almost right off the bat. That made all the teachers beware of Jim Bob. Jim Bob may not be a good candidate to be officially admitted here. Okay, I made it. I got a high enough score to where I was admitted, and like I said, I made my C. Second C would kick me out. After all this, 2 C's would kick me out. Each class, how much was it? $700 or $800. It was a private college. Well, it really had become a university. They started offering doctorates. And it became a university. So I was hitting the wall over and over and over and over. If you don't think you hit the wall when someone tells you another C and you're out, maybe look up definition of a wall. tell you something personal. This is very personal. I shouldn't. There's a lot of people listening right now that probably are don't have any particular faith. Um, I happen to be a follower of Christ, Jesus Christ. I'd go into my class to take a class test and wouldn't know the answer. To some of the questions. And I would go to the restroom and pray. Because I knew I couldn't have another C. I'd ask Jesus and God, please, when I go back in to the classroom, help me. Help me know the answer. Okay. I didn't want to stay too long because I was afraid they'd think I was cheating, looking at notes or something, so I'd go back in. Don't know why I'm sharing this. I passed them all. And I graduated from Spalding University. And then I had to take the psychology boards in Kentucky. I failed them 2 times. Not the national board, did great on it. But I was so nervous and anxious. I couldn't answer some of the questions on the oral exam. And then I didn't write enough on the written exam. So we had a multiple choice national exam, about 200 or 400 questions. I don't know which one. It's been years ago. I had an oral exam, which I didn't pass because I was nervous. And then I had a written exam I missed by about 1 point. It was 2.5 more years before I was able to pass enough exams to be called a psychologist. They let me after I failed the first time, they said you can come back in 6 months. I did, and I failed it because of nervousness. My mind went blank. Then I took 2 more years. I said, they're not going to pass me, because that was going to be an oral exam. The only reason I did was my director came into my room, my office, where I was working on a Friday. He says, you take the board exams on Monday, don't you? He said, I said, yeah, but I'm not going in. I've hit too many walls. I've hit 2 walls in the psychology exams, and this will be the 3rd wall that I'm going to fail. I'm going to hit it and fall. He says, don't tell yourself that. Tell yourself you're going to pass. So I'm not going in. Had to go to Frankfort, Kentucky to take it. I said, they're not going to pass me. They don't want me. 3 times and you're out. You failed 3 times in the state of Kentucky on that board exam and you're out. You cannot take it a 4th time. This is going to be my 3rd. And I had waited 2 years instead of the shorter time that they gave me to take it. He says, Jim, you've got to take it. You've got to take it. Tell yourself you're going to pass it. Spend the whole weekend telling yourself you're going to pass it. I did it. And I passed. And 2 or 3 days later, after the exam, I got a letter saying I was officially a psychologist in Kentucky. You can bust through these walls. That's what this is all about, is to say people's putting walls up for you. But it's not just women. The YouTube channels talking about women hitting the walls do not discuss men hitting the walls. And to end this thing, to tell you that there's future walls that I hit, it took 2 to 3 years for me to get my first job after I passed the exam because I did not have experience. May I go on to give you a bright look of the future? Once I got my first job, which was at Charter Hospital in Louisville, once I got my first job, I never went without another job till I retired. And I'm not, I'm still practicing, but I see people at home who are homebound. We're going back a lot of years, people. We're going back a lot of years. We're going back a lot of walls. We're going back so many walls, I can't even start to tell you the number I went through. And the reason I'm still working is because these homebound people have their own walls and they need help. And I hope you've enjoyed this. And look, if you liked it and want to give me a thumbs up, do. I don't have but 22 subscribers. I'd like to have another one. If you want to be a subscriber, I'll try to I was hoping to do this every day until I had a 3-day bedtime. But I'll try to do this every day or two. And I'll try to make it helpful, insightful, but it will be truthful. And again, I hope you've enjoyed this. And I want to thank you for